6 weeks had passed since the Great Blackout incident, which the city's official channels attributed to a spectacular, if highly localized, pipeline explosion. The floodlights around the Mazar-e were still burning, a blinding white monument to their unspoken promise. Hamza, Sale, and Taha were huddled in Hamza's tiny, generator-powered apartment, playing a silent game of cards. They hadn't laughed properly since they saw the mother monster crumble into bone dust. "Look." Sale finally broke the silence, tapping his cards nervously. "I know we agreed to stay indoors, but I need chai. Real chai from that place near Ayesha Manzil. This generator noise is driving me insane." "No," Taha said immediately, his eyes glued to the security camera feed Hamza had set up. 4 grainy images of the surrounding street corners. The floodlights protect the city center, but the peripheral neighborhoods feel different, too quiet. Hamza adjusted his glasses, massaging his temples. The metallic smell was gone, but it had been replaced by a faint, persistent scent of wet earth and stale henna. "He's right, Sale. Things that thrive in the shadows are only pushed out, not destroyed." Just then, the small LED screen displaying the camera feed flickered. Camera 3, pointed at the main street leading toward Gullberg, showed a disturbance. A figure was walking down the middle of the road. It wasn't slithering, it was walking with a heavy, deliberate gait. Another desperate soul looking for an open store. Sale muttered, leaning forward. "No," Hamza whispered, zooming the feed. "Look at its neck." The figure was tall and broad, dressed in traditional, heavy shalwar camis, but where its head should have been, there was only a rough, jagged stump of flesh and bone, pulsating faintly in the dim street light. It was the Surkata. The Surkata walked slowly, methodically, swinging its arms with unnatural length. It wasn't blind. It seemed to sense the world through the faint heat and vibrations of the deserted street. The sound of its heavy, leather sandals against the asphalt was the only sound in the entire street. "It's a different monster," Taha breathed, clutching a small, rusted Tawiz amulet around his neck. The sludge monster was a biological hunger. This is a malevolent spirit. It hunts for something else. Sale, for the first time in weeks, completely forgot to make a joke. "Its head, it's looking for its head. The legends say it can't rest until it finds what it lost, and it takes the head of anyone who looks at it too long." Hamza was already online, frantically searching old regional folklore archives. The rule is simple but horrifying. The Surkata cannot see, but it can sense when a person focuses on its absence. You look at the head, you become the head. The creature paused directly in front of their building. The scent of wet earth and henna surged through the locked windows, making the air inside thick and suffocating. It slowly raised a hand. Its fingers were long and thick, the nails dirty and broken. It didn't knock. It began to scrape its fingers down the concrete wall of the building, a chilling, grating sound that vibrated deep in their chests. "It knows we are here," Taha said, backing away from the window. "It smells our fear." Sale, his face pale, grabbed a kitchen towel and blindly threw it over the security camera lens. Out of sight, out of mind. Basic horror survival 101. That only works with ghosts who pay attention to physics. Hamza retorted, putting his tablet down. "We need to understand its weakness. The sludge monster hated light, the Surkata. It's tied to the living world, to a location, to a memory." Hamza found a footnote in the digital archive. The legend of the Surkata, specifically, a version tied to the volatile history of Karachi, suggested that the spirit was not just seeking its physical head, but the place where its consciousness was severed, a place of sudden, shocking trauma. It wasn't just murdered. Hamza read aloud, his voice low. "It was stolen from itself. The place where the act occurred anchors it. We have to find that anchor point and disrupt it." "How do we find a 50-year old murder spot in a city of 20 million? Sale demanded, running a nervous hand through his hair. "We could be talking about an old mango orchard that's now a flyover near Shara. Faisal, henna and wet earth," Taha murmured, eyes closed. Those are funeral scents, the scents of a grave or a shroud, and the shalwar camis is not modern. It's old style. This points us to the oldest part of our area, the boundary near the old Sabzi. Mandy, the scraping on the wall stopped. The heavy footsteps started again, receding slowly down the street. It's gone, for now, Hamza said, but it will be back. We have to use this time. Hamza opened his laptop and pulled up a detailed, digitized historical map of their sector from the 1960s. He cross-referenced areas that were once burial grounds or significant historical landmarks with the present day layout. They focused on the dense grid near the old Sabzi Mandi, an area that had seen rapid, traumatic development. Taha pointed to a small, unmarked patch on the 1960s map. This spot, it used to be the only well in the entire area, and a tiny, unofficial graveyard for the first settlers. The coordinates of the well were now the exact location of a massive, poorly maintained, 5-story commercial building, the Alfala shopping complex. Perfect, sale deadpan. The Circada's Trauma Center is now selling cheap electronics and used DVD. This is peak Karachi horror. Under the permanent, blinding glare of the Mazar floodlights, they drove in Hamza's battered car toward the Al-Fala complex. The city was deserted, lit by the omnipresent, intrusive light. They parked a few blocks away and approached the complex on foot. The scent of henna and wet earth intensified as they got closer. The shopping complex was a maze of darkened corridors and metal shutters, reeking of damp concrete and neglect. The anchor won't be in the basement, Taha predicted. The well would have been filled and the foundation laid over it. The psychic residue will rise to the point of greatest pressure, the highest point. They took the emergency stairs. The climb was agonizingly slow, the air thick and heavy. The silence was absolute. On the 5th floor, the air was bitterly cold, contradicting the oppressive summer heat outside. The floor was a labyrinth of small, shuttered tailor shops and dusty storage rooms. They saw the first sign, a fresh, thick, muddy trail of wet earth leading down the narrow corridor. He was just here, Hamza whispered, pulling out his only weapon, a thick, iron door stopper. They reached the end of the corridor, where the roof access door was propped open with a heavy cinder block. "This is it," Sale murmured, his eyes wide. "We break the anchor, we break the ghost. Simple enough, right? The Circata is waiting," Taha warned. "It wants to lure us onto the roof, where we have nowhere to run, and the moonlight is strong." They stepped onto the roof. The air was cool and still. The rooftop was covered in old satellite dishes and overflowing plastic water tanks. In the center, near a rusted antenna mast, was a pile of freshly dug, dark earth. And beside the earth, the Circata stood, completely still. It raised its long, thick hands and began to gesture, its movements slow and hypnotic. Then, a sound emerged from the gaping, jagged neck stump. It wasn't the violent scream they expected. It was a lullaby, a high, wavering, wordless melody, ancient and incredibly mournful. The sound resonated with the concrete, vibrating up through their shoes and into their bones. It was a sound of profound loss and despair, a psychological attack designed to flood them with sympathetic grief, making them drop their guard. "Don't look at the neck, don't listen to the song," Hamza screamed, clapping his hands over his ears. But the song was too powerful. Sale instantly dropped his door stopper, tears streaming down his face. "It's so sad, Hamza. He just wanted his head back. It's not his fault they built a tailor shop over his grave." Sale began to walk slowly toward the Circata, his eyes fixed on the empty space above the collar. Taha grabbed Sale's backpack strap and yanked him back with all his strength. "No, that's the lure. Sympathy is the trap." The Circata turned its headless body toward them. It knew they were distracted. It took one deliberate, heavy step forward. "The anchor, we need the anchor," Hamza yelled. Hamza saw what was in the pile of dirt, not a weapon, not an artifact, but a small, desiccated human skull, unearthed and coated in the fresh mud. The skull was the anchor. The The Surkata wasn't looking for a replacement. It was drawn to its own physical remains, seeking reunification. Taha, realizing the truth, reacted with brutal pragmatism. He rushed past the heartbroken Sale and the paralyzed Hamza, grabbed the skull, and without a second thought, hurled it as hard as he could over the parapet. The skull vanished into the black abyss of the abandoned street below. The lullaby snapped. The Surkata let out a sound of pure, searing agony, a dry, rasping noise like hot sand being poured over a burning fuse. It stumbled, thrashing its arms blindly. The absence of the skull broke the localized anchor. The entity was momentarily unmoored, its power source severed. Now, Hamza, Taha screamed. The light. Hamza, regaining his focus, grabbed a broken satellite dish, a large, curved piece of metal, and used it like a mirror. He angled it deliberately, reflecting the intense, pure, white light from the distant Mazar. He weighed floodlights directly onto the Surkata's neck stump. The reflected white light, concentrated and powerful, hit the spectral entity. The Surkata began to vibrate violently, the outline of its body shimmering. The heavy, leather sandals faded first, then the shalwar camis dissolved into mist. The massive, tragic body recoiled, shrinking rapidly back toward the pile of dirt. It was pulled, screaming silently, back into the earth. It wasn't destroyed, it was imprisoned again. The spirit was bound back to its traumatic ground zero, anchored now by the profound absence of its relic, sealed by the purifying light of the living world. Epilogue, the permanent vigil they waited until the sun rose, sitting, exhausted on the roof. The air slowly returned to normal, the scent of henna replaced by the familiar exhaust fumes of a few early morning motorbikes. They descended the stairs, and as they passed the spot where the skull had been, the pile of dirt had flattened, looking like nothing more than spilled earth. They found Sale's door stopper where he dropped it. Sale picked it up, shaking his head. "I still feel sad for him, you know. Being headless in Karachi is a terrible way to go," Sale said. "Maybe," Hamza replied, adjusting his glasses. "But the dead don't get to terrorize the living, Sale. Especially not with a sad lullaby. That's just manipulative haunting." Taha simply looked at the massive, 5-story commercial complex. The house didn't wake up again. The city itself is the haunted place. Its history is its prison. They got back in the car. As they drove away, Hamza made a call. He didn't call the police. He called the city council anonymously and filed a complaint about an illegal, unapproved construction extension on the roof of the Al-Falah shopping complex, citing dangerous unsecured material and a possible leak into the structure. 2 days later, the entire 5th floor of the Al-Falah complex was condemned, sealed off with police tape and labeled structurally unsound. The only thing left on the roof was a heavy layer of new, thick asphalt, poured over the exact spot of the old well, burying the unanchored trauma deep beneath a final, permanent seal. Hamza, Sale, and Taha all agreed. From now on, they weren't just surviving the city. They were the city's maintenance crew, permanently on vigil against the nightmares that lived beneath the asphalt. And their biggest enemy wasn't the monsters. It was the inevitable, terrifying silence of a Karachi power cut.